Hi boys and girls, it's Solskjaer back with another video. Today just wanted to give our thoughts on the rumours around obviously Solskjaer's future at Manchester United, how poor Man United were against Leicester City and kind of what my thoughts are on that and what direction I think Manchester United should go in really, and look at maybe where we're going wrong, certainly at the moment under Solskjaer's tenure. So if we crack on with that, so I want to bring up this story from BBC Sport. It was in reference, obviously, Carragher's criticism on Sky Sports in regards to, Solskjaer and obviously his performances so far, like managerial efforts so far in the season. And basically, just to kind of just highlight some of the quotes that Solskjaer made about the fact that obviously the criticism not affecting him. The fact that he said teams all go through periods of poor form very much sounds a bit like what Lampard was saying when Chelsea were going through what they called a period of poor form, but it lasted certainly to an extent where Chelsea thought they were going to get cut adrift. And let's be honest, it was only when they got Tuchel in, and he did such a miraculous job, and they went unbeaten for so long, and he had such a terrific record against teams in the top six that they actually managed to salvage that season and obviously turn it into an incredible success, really, with culminating in the Champions League victory. But without making that change, you could argue that that wouldn't have materialised, and maybe they would have missed out on top four. And I think United are in a similar position now, certainly with Solskjaer. Is how long do you persist with this lack of progression, really, in relation to an identity forming on the pitch? I think a lot of people some people are getting sick and tired of obviously the labelling of Moments FC. And certain moments players and things like that, but at the end of the day, some managers, I think, benefit from this, and I think another manager that I could pluck out of my head that I think is similar to Solskjaer in this sense would actually be Zidane. Now, maybe I am doing him a disservice, but I think obviously his record speaks for itself with the Champions League victories that he had at Real Madrid, but I think that was a team all in its prime, and for large periods of the Champions League, there were moments where they were certainly not the best team. They certainly could have lost games, and arguably didn't deserve some. They got some slices of luck really to progress further into the final, and then a lot of their big name players produced their big performances in the final, and so I do feel like that run as Real Madrid manager, while they won those Champions Leagues, I do think it was a little bit overrated. I think a lot of it was world-class players pulling rabbits out of hats, and anyone that's played football at any level knows that a talented player can do something, and can certainly make certain people look foolish at any given time, and tactics can sometimes not be important in that, and sheer ability can override really any kind of effort from another manager to obviously stop some player. An example of that would be when Sir Alex tried to use Park Ji-sung to counter-attack Messi in the 2011 final. There was a point where he did the job for a while. We were 1-1 at half time, but a player gets run ragged, and so even the best efforts tactically can just cease to be of importance when you've got such talent on the pitch. And if we're going to look at the positives in terms of what Solskjaer's done at Man United, it would definitely be the fact that we've started to build a positive team. You can see where positions have been identified. We've not necessarily gone and just jumped in on a signing that we didn't think that would make sense for the actual makeup of the squad, and obviously what areas needed addressing on a given window. Now, I think that was progressing nicely under Solskjaer, in relation to the fact that we picked up obviously Varane. That we needed an upgrade at centre back, and we need more depth because of injuries, and to have Lindelof now as someone that comes in and out, it takes us up to another level at centre back, I believe. And then some fans are on the fence with Jadon Sancho. Certainly with the early performances at the moment, even though I've seen plenty of progression there. It's just people obviously want to see the stats now, and ideally if a player is slightly off colour, if you're not playing well, you're not winning games, then people start to look at those things like what goals and assists you've contributed. And I think Sancho's certainly in that position at the moment, early on in his career at United. But we bought him to bring balance to the team, whether that's to play him off the left, play him off the right, an ability to pass and probe, and he's great at drawing players, and it was really bought for a long-term idea of some player that we could develop into a versatile player that could break low blocks and bring out the best in other players of his passing ability. And I think we will eventually see that. But then obviously the odd signing that we had was Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I think I don't think Solskjaer necessarily wanted Cristiano Ronaldo. I think obviously that was just the United board probably made that decision. They probably thought this is a great chance to not only potentially obviously take the signing away from City, but even if City were actually just sort of testing the water with it, and maybe they actually weren't thinking of fully going all in on Cristiano Ronaldo, especially at the age of 36, and the lack of legs now for what is an even more intense Premier League. Then what that really did was it was a stroke of genius by City in the sense to kind of pull Manchester United into doing something stupid and setting the development project of the players that we signed back by certainly another transfer window or so. And I think that's what's happened here, is that United's board have gone, well, us stealing Ronaldo away from Manchester City, certainly not only you're going to get reap the rewards of obviously just Ronaldo's name, but you're also going to get that narrative reward of terms of stealing that signing away, which is obviously going to increase shirt sales and kind of garner more interest in relation to the club and obviously the signing itself. So I think that's what's happened there, and now we're seeing, after obviously the kind of fever pitch early on, which sort of pulled Man United in terms of performances and goals early on, that's now started to die down, and because of that feel-good factor's not there, and now we're really starting to see the cracks surfacing again, and those problems. We know, we've talked about it numerous times, that defensive midfield is the issue with Manchester United, and Cristiano Ronaldo's signing has obviously taken us away from dealing with that priority. That priority, if signed, would have obviously got us closer to the challenging for the title. But looking at the way we performed this season, I think it's fair to say that with Solskjaer and potentially the sort of the management team as a collective, because we don't really know how much Solskjaer actually puts into the tactics. A lot of it is a more of a by committee. I do think that we would have been a bit of sort of deja vu in the sense of maybe getting to finals, failing to tactically break down another manager, not resting players at the right time, playing players into the ground, bizarre substitutions that, like I say, it's just to throw on a player to create another moment at the end of the game, not like a change of system, not reverting to a back five, not thinking about outside the box about possibilities to sort of develop the team or counter certain opposition. And I think we're getting that more and more from Solskjaer now because of the Ronaldo signing. I feel like that signing is now heaps the pressure on Solskjaer more, because the delusion is now at Manchester United that we've signed obviously a player that tore it up in the Bundesliga. We signed a guy that has won every trophy there is in Rafa Varane and has an incredible finals record, and then we've signed obviously the big man in Cristiano Ronaldo, and that expectation's obviously gone through the roof based on like I say, perception of these players and what they can bring to Manchester United. And it's only now with this series of results, negative results, that we're getting exposed now in terms of those tactics and lack thereof with Solskjaer. So I wanted to delve a bit into that. I mean, the first thing that springs to mind is just the pressing stats that have come up about Ronaldo. I'm just on the Manchester Evening News here for this one, but I just read here that over the course of last season with Juventus, Ronaldo averaged 6.75 pressures per 90 minutes, whilst Cavani for United averaged 13.7 per 90 minutes, and that is more than double. So there you go. That's just right off the bat, striking difference. But then this is where it just gets even scarier, because this is just this season, and this is frightening. So Cavani, he's just playing as an impact sub, and he's coming on obviously for brief stints, and he's still averaging 8.18 pressures per 90 minutes. Whereas Ronaldo's only got 2.65, which is, as we've seen out there, is bottom of the league out of attacking players. And so it really stops Man United from doing what they were good at. I thought last season there was an improvement in the pressing game, and I think that probably helped in us actually finishing second in the league, certainly. And I think with the signing of Ronaldo, we've gone away from that, and it's proven a massive problem, arguably more of a problem than the defensive midfield situation. And hear me out here, because obviously a lot of people, how could that be, right? How could that be a defensive midfield? You sign a player there, it just fixes everything like that. That's just simply not true. If we persist with Ronaldo because he's on a 2-year contract, if hypothetically we did stick with him to next season, starting as our number 9, which personally I don't think we will, then it's a case of a lack of pressure on the front line. Teams obviously, with more creative midfielders at the, like a deep line playmaker like a Tielemans in the Leicester game, having the ability to pick up their head, receive the ball under very little pressure, and then teams able to find their rhythm. And then, as you say, with a lack of defensive midfield balance and quality there, then there's maybe sort of a lack of acknowledgement of where sort of the next problem is coming from, where the next pass is gonna come to. And Manchester United as well, in terms of the sort of general build-up, we lack our deep line playmaker. So it's not like we can sit, kind of back and then soak up a bit of pressure, win the ball back, and be in a situation where we can sort of maintain possession for large periods or anything like that, or maybe take the sting out of the game. We're in a situation where we have a definite inability to keep possession for large periods because of the lack of, like I say, balance in that midfield. And the way you can counter that is if you become an all-action team that just gets on the press, tries to win the ball high up. This is what I mean. It's a bit like when Klopp first took over at Liverpool. You get a front three in place that can press and work in tandem, backed up by some midfielders with high energy. And that's the way Liverpool set up. Their midfield, for example, is not really seen as their star. Their key players. It's their front line with their sort of talent, but obviously and their sort of full-backs with their crossing ability. But the midfield is it's a workhorse unit. When it was Wijnaldum, Henderson, Fabinho, even. Obviously Fabinho being sort of that upgraded version, but they're all just workhorses that do a job within the system, within their identity, on the back of obviously what the press that the attacking three initiate. And at United, where that was more so last season, with evidenced by Cavani's pressing stats that I've just shown you here, that's now gone. And so we're in real trouble unless we address that soon. And I think the only way we can do that is that we need to stop doing this sort of halfway house identity, in terms of we'll press sometimes where we can in the wrong areas. So let's say Sancho, hypothetically, he'll go pressing down the left because he's been part of the Dortmund system where they press. He'll go pressing down the left and he'll just leave a gap behind him, and then we don't press in tandem, or not hunting impacts. He goes off and there's just a huge gap which then can be exploited. And this reminds me of a while ago, a few seasons ago, when Schweinsteiger came from. We signed him from Bayern, signed him from a team that was used to being a pressing outfit, and we played against Arsenal away from home. And I remember we conceded 3 goals in the first 15 minutes, and one of the problems was by Schweinsteiger getting on the press really high in midfield and leaving huge amounts of gaps behind him, and then a lack of acknowledgement from the rest of the team, almost as if either the manager hadn't worked on it and like Schweinsteiger just literally gone rogue during the game, which I don't know, could be a possibility, or it's a situation where, you know, there just isn't this sort of collective understanding, cohesion amongst the team, so they don't know where to press and when to go. And yeah, I just think that's where we are at the moment, is that we're not dropping deep enough to soak pressure like we did under Mourinho, and then we're not pressing high enough as a unit, so we're caught in no man's land and gaps are appearing everywhere. And because we don't have an elite defensive midfielder like a Kante or something like that, these things are being exposed week in, week out. Teams are finding their key player in those gaps and they are making things happen. Now, this is what brings me on to my next argument, which is a lot of people think, oh yeah, let's go with Pogba in midfield, obviously Matic. Now, for most part of that Leicester game, I thought we were in that game, and I didn't think they did that badly before Pogba started to fade, I think, with fatigue from the international break, and Matic just generally with his age. And really, we need to freshen things up earlier in that game. And again, that was something which Solskjaer didn't address, as an example of it, sort of just lack of understanding and proactivity with what's really going wrong within a game. And I do think that Fred and McTominay, and I said this in one of our previous videos, but until we actually upgrade and we sign those midfielders, sadly, they are still our most important partnership in midfield. And I bring us on to this Man United Leeds game, which we won 5-1. Now, admittedly, this was the opening fixture, and Leeds probably weren't up to, because Leeds, we know their sort of murder ball that they play. They probably weren't up to their ultimate level of fitness this early on. So I thought we got a good version of Leeds at this point when we battered them. But that being said, if we look at just our team set up here, we had McTominay and Fred. They know how to play together. Like I said, Fred, he struggles to make those tackles and really take those yellow cards, as we saw from the Damari Gray incident for Townsend's goal. But the one thing about Fred, and I'll continue to say it, is that he has an abundance of energy and he knows where to position himself. Like, he does know where to put out the fire. We saw it in the Wolves game where the ball, he sensed where the ball was going, so he peeled off into the right area and the ball got played and he read it and he tried to intercept it. And what did Fred do? Because he's such a, I was going to say something more impolite, but I'm just going to call him an imbecile. He's such an imbecile that he ended up sort of fumbling the ball, like miscontrolling it and actually setting up Wolves' attack. Now, these are calamitous things, and I know it sounds contradictory to say, oh, Fred and McTominay, it's our most important midfield setup, but they cost us moments like that, and that is true, right? Don't get me wrong, that is true. But in terms of balance and knowledge of where to be and freeing up the attacking players to do what they do best, that is the combination that we have. And until we upgrade it, I'm sorry, that's a reality, and fans need to get a grip, because at the end of the day, if we don't play that setup, I just think more and more games we're going to be, it's not about just conceding the midfield. It's about, like I say, this halfway house of identity. And I think with Fred and McTominay, we have some form of identity. We know that they're just going to offer very little, do some dirty work, and just provide some simple passes, erratically to our attacking line, but the defensive setup and the structure, and as well, certainly with their energy levels, they are going to try and protect Wan-Bissaka and Shaw. Now, I think that is one thing that needs to be addressed, certainly very, very quickly, which Solskjaer's not addressing at all, is that a lot of the goals, the one against Everton and the one against Newcastle, and I'm just going to highlight both of these actually now that I've thought about it. So I'm just going to go on to these for just a moment. If I can type. Right, okay, so we've got the Newcastle game here. Okay, so we just look at this setup here. And in this setup, if we remember that Manquillo goal that was scored here, Maguire stepped into this area, into no man's land. And this is while we had a corner. And similar to the Everton situation, they had a corner as well. And they broke and through the gaps that were being exposed here. But Maguire made this decision to go into this area here. He went in for a slide tackle and completely missed it. Now, Wan-Bissaka, if we just change this colour just so it's easy to understand, he had gone from this position, and obviously because we were high on the corner side of things, he was like over here. So he was having to run back to cover this mistake by Maguire. And Shaw, it was the exact same thing. He was over here, I think initially actually taking the corner because he takes a lot of our set pieces, and he was just darting and running in here. And then all that happens, they got on the counter attack, and Manquillo, he'd found himself from this position here, and he got himself all the way in here, and from this area the ball got filtered across all the way from this section here across here before he got fired into this corner. Now I could literally just not touch this, all these graphics, do nothing with it, and just move this on. So it looks absolutely messy as hell right now, but if we just move this on, okay, and then we just move this on to the Everton game. Right, here we are. Very, very similar situation, except it was Townsend, and the only difference was that this bit in the middle didn't materialise. It wasn't Maguire doing the problems here. Basically, obviously, in this situation, Fred, he was the one that drifted over. So Fred, he was the one putting out the fire. Wan-Bissaka again was up here in this, where this X is here, and Damari Gray, he had found himself from here into this area here. And Fred failed to put out this fire, and the exact same thing happened. Wan-Bissaka was really, really high up, and then it just ended up from here going across to Townsend into this area again, and it was fired home into De Gea's goal. It was the exact same thing twice. And it's because of the fullbacks and Fred's obviously inability to pull the guy down and get the yellow card. Maguire's inability to obviously put in the challenge in that Newcastle goal. But the common denominator with it is that we're pushing the fullbacks on to attack. We're putting Shaw forward. We're putting Wan-Bissaka forward. Yet we're not doing anything to block those gaps. And this is what I'm talking about. Is if you're going to go on the high press, right, then you can win the ball back quickly. So if you do lose the ball and you're maintaining those waves of pressure in the attacking half, you can win it back immediately, and then these counter-attacks don't materialise. But at the moment, we don't know what we're doing. We've got full-backs bombing on. We've got one guy pressing in the attacking line and the rest not, and Ronaldo not doing anything to help defensively. And then obviously we have inadequate defensive midfielders to cover any of those gaps. So everyone's getting exposed, everyone's on islands, and teams are picking us off. And this is going to continue until, unfortunately, until you upgrade all the players that you're having significant problems with. And for me, the first one is Ronaldo. You get him out the team, and then you get Cavani or Greenwood back through the middle. My idea is obviously if you're kind of trying to nurse Rashford in on that left wing, then yeah, fine, keep Greenwood on the right, get Cavani back in, drop Ronaldo, and that's what I'd suggest. That would be my first decision, and I think that's the only thing that's going to keep Solskjaer on a job personally, because he's caught in a rock and a hard place now, because he can drop Ronaldo, and if he continues to lose, he's sacked, because he's dropped the key player that we signed, the golden boy, and obviously the results haven't changed. But if he keeps Ronaldo, starting, most weeks, and this type of identity, or lack of identity, I should say, then he is going to get sacked either way. So it's a catch-22 situation, and he has to make that decision now. And for me, it's drop Ronaldo. Okay, so if he doesn't drop Ronaldo, then I think that Solskjaer is done. And if obviously he's done at Man United, I have my ideas of who we should bring in, and I'll cover that in another video. But that's just a bit of snippet onto the things that are going wrong at Man United and how they need to be addressed. Okay, so thanks a lot for listening. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And please put in the comments whether you kind of agree that this is tactically what's going wrong with Man United, where you think Man United can improve. Would you be as drastic as me, moving Ronaldo out of the team indefinitely? What other things would you like to put in terms of the problems at Man United? But cheers a lot. Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.